It's been a week of intrigues, starting in Qatar with the government of Qatar putting up restrictions for thousands of Europeans all flocking to the Gulf to watch the World Cup football, to back here home in Kenya, where there's a raging debate and discussion on whether the president should use genetically modified maize as a shortcut to end the ongoing hunger in the country. It's a discussion that, of course, brings me to what we always do here on Let's Talk Love, trying to get the context of love in all these issues and trying to draw some important lessons of love and patriotism from whatever is happening. The man next to me, of course, is Professor Herman Manyora, a friend of the public, and on the streets we call him Dr. Love. So, Prof, today the question I'm putting to you is, Qatar is hosting the World Cup right now, and you know that's a cultural feat that is celebrated well and beyond the British Empire as it used to be.
Yes.
And one thing that is standing out is that Qatar and the Arabs, if I can say that, are putting very strict restrictions of their own culture and of their own way of living on this game that is very much European and very much Western. And the question I'm asking you today, what can we learn as Kenya, as Africans, on how the people of the Gulf handle this over-endearing influence of the West in all this? Every time you interact with the West, they are trying to impose their influence on you. But Qatar and the others seem to have quite the way of fighting that influence.
Well, the obvious observation would be supported by the saying, mwacha mila ni mtumwa.
Ni mtumwa.
Na Shaban Robert akasema kwamba titi la mama tamu japo la mbwa.
Kumaanisha nini?
Just to say that a man without culture is basically useless. You must belong somewhere and have some form of culture, something you stand for, something you are ready to die for. So that should be what one can learn from the Muslim world.
Yes.
What is going on. But there are also certain things that can be seen as being excessive.
Yes? That's what they do.
Because you see now, the problem is, it is one thing to protect your culture and your way of life, your ways, and it's one thing. But it's quite another thing to impose on other people your way of life.
But they're coming
what
to your
the
house.
West is doing has been trying to impose their ways of life on other people. Some, like Africans, have taken it and swallowed hook, sink, and line up, everything.
Sink and line.
But others, the Muslim world, the Arab world, and Chinese, have refused with varying degrees of rejection. Some take, modify, and so on and so forth. But in the same light, when you have people physically coming in contact with you, like in the case of Qatar, because of football, in your space.
Yes.
Then again, your reaction could also be seen as imposing. Now you are accusing people of imposing their ways on you, but now you are also acting in a manner to suggest you too are imposing your ways.
So you're not similar to the Traps?
But the middle ground, and which in my view is the best way, is whenever cultures meet, there will certainly be conflict. Maybe born out of misunderstanding and extreme positions, etc. But my thinking is some middle ground should be established. Live and let live should be a better way of doing things. And you cannot go to Qatar and try to show that you people, you know you are like this, now we shall show. No, that again is foolish. It's counterproductive.
It is.
It's counterproductive.
Right, Prof. And globalists, or people who believe that we are evolving to a point of a global village, if you like, tend to believe that whoever is moving against the wave of progressiveness, as they call it, which is basically westernized culture, whoever is moving against that wave is probably not progressive. And the Qataris and the other Arabs and even the Orient, they have been labeled as people who are moving against progress just by moving against some very Western cultures, some very practices, even in sexuality, that are really not resonating with our cultures. But as Africans, we seem to always flow with that river without questioning it. Again, should we go the way of these other people who are going against it? And is there much to lose from saying no to that influence?
You know, America and the West are trying to turn the world into one market, ruled by consumerism.
Consumerism, all right.
A world of
What does that mean?
a world of materialism, of consumption,
Buying and buying.
and no values. If anything stands in the way of that life, where everybody is just a market, and everything is about consumption,
And products.
and there are no values. If anybody standing against it is demonized by the West. And that's why even when Muslims or the Arab world fight, they are considered extremists, fundamentalists. When China stands up against certain things, they are called dictators, backwards, and all manner of adjectives. So that is the situation the world is in. So America is expanding the space. It is inching closer to turning the world into one huge
America.
material market.
One huge New York.
Yeah, where it's just consumerism, and that anything that stands in the way, especially matter of value, family value, religion, and what must be swept aside to allow this new world to move. But I want to remind the West and anybody who supports them to go to the Bible. The Bible is many times a book of reference. You don't have to believe in Christianity. It's a book of reference.
Okay.
Sodom and Gomorrah were two very successful cities. This Sodom had reached such high levels of civilization that the people of the city had begun to engage in certain extreme lifestyles. But God then destroyed the entire city.
He did.
Again, you don't need to believe in God. I'm just narrating the story.
It's a story loaded with lessons.
This story is not about a real city in real life being destroyed by a real God or an imaginary God.
What is it about then?
This story is about the reality of civilizations.
How they rise and fall?
That civilizations come and go. And the common denominator in all this is the excesses that progress seems to introduce. What we call civilization, what we call progress, comes with certain extremes that then are responsible for the destruction of that civilization.
Good times creating weak men?
Yeah, so America is swallowing the world. In another 50 years, the world will be American, whether we like it or not. And perhaps in another 50, 200 years, this world as we know it will be destroyed and another new world will come.
A whole different civilization?
Yes, a whole new world. There's somebody was sharing with me. I don't know who that was. Somebody was telling me that there's a book, which by the way I should look for, that tries to explain civilizations. And it says the Egyptian civilization, for example, was not by men that we know today. It was by another civilization that was wiped out. So remnants like those pyramids and other things can only be explained not by what we know now in the world. It can only be explained by the fact that there must have been another civilization
that went ahead of us?
That were ahead, predates us, that was swept away. And the mankind started the journey again. So what we are seeing like those pyramids belong to that other civilization that was wiped out before we started another. So America will rule the world.
Yeah.
But as sure as night comes after day, this civilization, because inbuilt in this American way of looking at life are things that will destroy it. Because a society that is not founded on knowledge and on values cannot last. If a society is founded on quick gains, on materialism, on force, it cannot survive the test of time.
And earlier, Prof, you said one of the fuels of this new Americanized wave is consumerism, which is, the hallmark of capitalism. And it brings me to the other topic that's been trending this week, the question of food. For the longest time, food has not been commercialized in Africa. It's something that we dealt with as a community, but we find ourselves in a position where we don't have enough food, or that is what we are being told. And the man on top is telling us the solution is to bring lab-manufactured maize from outside, that we don't have enough farmers or enough maize here in the country. And the question is that still part of that westernized consumerist influence being born on us, Prof?
Of course. These are multinationals wanting to destroy our seeds so they can sell us only seeds from one direction.
Tell me more.
Of making us dependent on them. Because GMOs, certainly, they interfere with genetic makeup of other seeds. And after some times in this country, 5, 7, 8 years, 10 years, no other seed will germinate. So for you to plant food in this country, you'll need seed from one company.
Those multinationals?
Yes.
And they're not here in Kenya?
That's number one, yeah, the multinationals. Number two, they can also apply a shortcut by not giving you the seeds, so that you just buy their food.
Scorched earth policy.
Yeah, and they dictate how much.
God damn.
And since you must eat, and you have killed all your biodiversity, nothing of yours can grow, and they can't give you the seeds. So that brings us to love. Nobody can do that if they understood and if they loved their people and their country. No president who loves their country can allow that to happen. Not at all.
Again, you also keep saying that it's because we are losing some important aspects of our own culture and identity. That's why we are
because we do not love ourselves. We allow foreigners to exploit us. A man who loves his children cannot expose them to danger deliberately when they are sick. Then how can you be a parent who loves your children if you expose them to danger, to poison? And these GMOs, really, this is poison from a scientific point of view.
Even without adding the politics of it and all the other
just the science. The science itself is, nobody can stand here as a scientist and tell you this is safe. It is left to buccaneers like Bill Gates. They are not scientists, but they finance science to tell their story.
But do we have the leverage, like Qatar, to say that we love ourselves enough to say no to things that they don't augur well with us?
We can have it, but we are not.
We're not using it?
We are not using it. We don't want to be strong. We like being weak.
We'd rather depend?
We like being dependent. And it's not because the people like being dependent. It's because the leadership. We have weak leadership in Africa that makes Africans dependent on the West when they have everything going for them. So we've not had leaders who care for Africa, who love the people of Africa, who love the black race, because they are puppets of the West. They pamper to the whims of the West.
All right, Prof. Thank you. Let's stop the discussion there. Professor Herman Manyora is a notable public educator and a man who has deep knowledge on issues that affect us, our love and our families and our nation. And the discussion today, as you've heard, is always on love and how we can use our love for ourselves as a country to ward off and to fight off and to resist external influences. Until I see you next time, my name is Kimathi. Let's talk some love.